Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, former two-time UFC Fight of the Night winner, MMA fighter, did a little pro wrestling training as well. He's known as the Silverback himself, Seth Petruzell. Seth, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, man? Thank you for having
Pretty
me on.
good. Yeah, no problem. So what's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Man, what's going on with this going on here? Um, been extremely busy. I just opened my third martial art facility about a year ago. Uh,
Wow.
been extremely busy with that. I opened it in the absolute worst time during lockdown during COVID, where the city wasn't dealing with any of the permitting and all that crap. So it was like I definitely lost a good 5 years off my life trying to trying to get it all going and started and stuff like that. But now that it's doing amazing. So I'm really happy with that.
So what kind of gyms are you doing? You're doing just like MMA gyms, or are you doing little wrestling?
No, so my first gym is the Jungle MMA and Fitness. We opened that. I opened that back in late 2008, right after the infamous Kimbo Slice fight. I
Yep.
took all my money and I just dumped it into that gym and opened that gym right away. About 4 or 5 years later, I opened a second MMA gym about 30 minutes away. And then, like I said, just last year, I kind of branched off and went back to my roots and opened a traditional karate dojo, Japanese karate dojo, which is where I'm coming from right now, which is why I'm wearing a gi right now.
Nice.
um,
Nice.
so it's actually right down the street from my first gym, the Jungle. And it's just I don't know. I just wanted to get back into my roots. I've loved traditional martial arts since I was 6 years old when I first started, and I wanted to go back to doing what I loved, and that's why I kind of opened this third one with
So
that.
how's it going now, though? Going good?
Oh yeah, it's going amazing now. Like I'm I'm surprised how good it's going. Like we're just having people coming in left and right. The Jungle's doing great, which is the MMA gym. We actually had to turn people away just because of how busy it is on the mats lately. It's crazy the influx of people that are coming to the gym. So it's definitely blessed and lucky that's happening. And I mean we have great instructors there, and we treat everyone like family. So it's not surprising to me, but I'm definitely feeling very lucky that it's going this good for sure.
3 gyms, though. Boy, that'll keep you busy. Oh, man.
Yeah,
I know I know somebody that owns one, and they're like, he's losing their mind.
yeah. Luckily, I have a really good business partner for my first gym, the Jungle, Mike Lee, who's actually one of my. I've been with him. He's been my jujitsu instructor for my entire career. I actually fought. He was my very first fight. His one of his students was my very first fight ever back in 2001. And I knocked out his student, and me and him became friends after that. And he's trained me ever since that fight. And we opened that gym together in 2008. So luckily, I have him. He helps out a lot.
So, I mean, obviously, this keeps you busy, right? I mean, doing all this stuff, I mean, that's gotta keep you super busy.
Yeah, yeah, which is I don't have time for much else, but I mean when you do something you love, like they say, you're never working a day, but I feel like I'm working, but I'm still loving what I do. So right now I'm just full time concentrating on the traditional karate aspect of it. So I'm rarely at the MMA gym within the past year. Actually, I've been there maybe once a week, if that. But because the karate gym I'm doing on my own, it's just mine. So I'm literally there afternoon, night, all the lesson plans, all the instruction, all the marketing, all the business aspects, everything is just all me. So that's definitely taken all of my time for sure.
Now, you mentioned you opened the first gym, the Jungle, when you beat Kimbo. Do a lot of people still mention that? I mean, they gotta still mention that to you a lot, right? I mean, that was huge.
Yeah, like it's crazy that I didn't think that this far along, this long after, I'd still be, I guess you could say, making money off that fight. And
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely. I mean, they don't come there knowing that. Well, some do. I guess they look at the website, they see who I am, and they saw that I was the person that did that, and they come in. But most of the time, they don't really know, and they look on the wall and they see some of my old fight pictures and stuff, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you were the guy that did that?" Like, oh, and they think it's so cool, and
Sure.
obviously, it kind of keeps them. I guess it keeps them around. It keeps them interested and stuff like that. It's kind of a cool thing to have their instructor be the guy that knocked out Kimbo, I guess. So, so it's funny.
Amazing, like, looking back. What was, like, the thought process, like, going into it? Because did you know, like, a day in advance, or you didn't know until you showed up that day you were fighting him?
No, not even when I showed up that day. I was still on an undercard fight. up until about maybe an hour and a half before I went on into the cage. So yeah, they came in the back room, said, "We got a situation. You want to fight Kimbo Slice?" Just like that, just matter of fact. Like, "We got a situation. Do you want to fight Kimbo Slice?" I'm like, "Yeah." I didn't even think twice. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure. How much you gonna pay me? Sure, yeah." And it was just like that. And I had my hands wrapped at the time. I remember cutting the wraps off because I had a little bit of time to before I went on. So I cut the
Yep.
wraps off, got my mind situated, right, and then yeah, I just went out there and did what I had to do. But I always tell people every time they ask me that how I felt and stuff is it was strange because it was the only fight my entire career that I had no. I always get everyone gets pre-fight nerves and they get scared. They wonder in their head what's going to happen. I didn't have any of that for that fight. It was just like, oh, whatever happens, happens. This is just a cool opportunity. I'm just out there gonna have fun and do what I do. And and it's funny that it worked out that way.
Now, you weren't nervous at all. Is that because it's like, I'm just a fill-in guy. If I lose, who cares? If I win, this is unbelievable. Was it almost like, you couldn't lose even if you lost? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it was a win-win for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
me being an athlete and being competitive my whole life, I would definitely care if I lost. And even though if it was last minute, I still would care personally, and I still would feel like I left my family down, my trainers down, and all that stuff. But I just felt like the pressure, a little bit of the pressure was definitely alleviated off. It was just, relieved off my shoulders. And I didn't have to feel that intense pressure. Like I feel pressure. That was one of the reasons I retired, just because that pre-fight feeling and that pressure that you get it sucks. It's the worst feeling ever. Afterwards, it's great after you fight, but before it's awful. And I hate that feeling. So it definitely was a night and day compared to my other fights. I still had the worry, but it wasn't anything big.
Yeah. Wasn't it Dan Henderson who said like he basically it's like almost like the opposite of Mike Tyson. Like he got nervous, then he got punched in the face, and then he was ready to go. Like he had to get hit first
There's,
before he got ready.
yeah. That's true. I mean, when you're in there, once the bell rings, it's tunnel vision, and then you don't feel anything. I mean, I just go on
Right.
muscle memory, and you're an instinct at that point. But leading up to it, it's quite another story. But yeah, I guess Dan Anderson's right. Once you get punched in the face, it's that especially then it's just you're in for business.
Yeah. So Kimbo, obviously, does he think he's fighting Shamrock, and then he gets notified before you, after you, or you don't even know when he was notified?
No, they asked him about I think Frank Shamrock first. Frank Shamrock, I don't know what his deal. I think he was thinking about it at the time, or he was back and forth with it. And that's when they asked me. They asked me if I would do it first. Then they went to Kimbo and says, "Okay, we got Seth Petruzell. He wants to fight. Do you want to fight him?" He knew nothing about me, so he wanted to see video real fast or learn about me. So I guess I heard that he researched, like he looked me up real fast or YouTubed me, saw some of my fights, and asked for. I don't know. I think I heard that he asked for more money or something like that as well, or something. But yeah, he was told after me. After I said okay, they went to him and asked how he felt about it.
Frank Shamrock, the commentator that night, they're
Yeah,
asking him too. Wow.
how crazy is that? They go to the commentator and ask him if he wants to fight. They needed somebody, or that was their headliner, so they had
Yeah.
they had to do something, obviously. Uh,
Was your fight going to be a heavyweight fight? Your other fight, the pre-card fight, was it a light heavyweight? Because you're only what 205 and a half.
I was 205. Yeah, I was 205 and a half. It was a light heavyweight fight, and Kimbo, I think he was 235 or 245, one of the
Yep.
two.
Yep.
So yeah, so I was definitely a lot lighter, but that was never an issue for me. I made my whole career out of fighting bigger guys. Like all my fights everyone was always 20, 30 pounds heavier than me, which I liked because I was faster than them usually. So I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I feel like some of the like smaller guys, not really smaller, but they like being the quicker guy rather than the stronger guy because they feel like they can get a few shots in. Obviously, Kimbo felt that you know what
Yeah,
I mean. You got him before he could even touch you.
right. I mean, strength obviously is a great asset to have, but when you have speed, and I mean, at that point when you're heavy like that, like over 200 pounds, I mean, you got enough strength. If you're punching correctly, you have enough strength to knock out anybody. So I mean, at a certain point, it's kind of overkill. You're just killing your speed at that point. So, you want to have a good balance of speed and strength. And once you're big enough, you're going to have the strength. You just need to work on that speed. At least how I feel. That's how I feel about it.
So, did you know of Kimbo? I mean, obviously he's the main eventer, he's the legend, but did you like study him? Did you watch him, or you just like, he's just a street fighter. He has no talent as far as MMA. Like, what did you think about him?
Yeah, no, I never thought that. I mean, I always had anybody that fights, I have respect for and stuff like that. But I mean, I remember when I opened well, okay, so this is before I opened another gym before the Jungle, for a couple years when I was on the season of Ultimate Fighter. As
Yep.
soon as I got off that, I opened a gym called Knockout Fitness for a couple years, and that was at the time when Kimbo just started blowing up and getting huge. So I remember as soon as we opened the gym, we would like watch all his YouTube videos and like be like, "Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this," and then we would go and train and stuff like that. So I mean, I didn't have feelings one way or the other about him. I knew he was I think he had great hands and he was a good boxer and he
Yep.
could punch for sure. So I definitely had respect for him and I respected his hands. But my whole game plan going into it was to shoot and take him down and just use my jiu-jitsu and ground and pound. But it didn't get that far, I guess.
Yeah, definitely not. It's funny too with him, like like everybody used to watch those videos. He's got like this presence, or he had this presence, he had this charisma, but he did have those good hands. So it's like, man, this guy's a pretty good boxer. Maybe not MMA fighter, but he's a good boxer.
Yeah, which is why that's why I was glad that he went to boxing afterwards. I felt he should have done that from the beginning, where he was
Yeah.
had time to progress, with his age and stuff like that. I think he should have started with that.
Yeah, especially since not that he had like great training or whatever, but he's more accustomed to boxing. Then you got to almost start over with MMA because then you got to work your ground game. You got always worried about being taken down. So
Right.
yeah, he should have went to boxing.
Yeah.
Probably made more money too.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely would have made more money. That's a no-brainer.
So when Jimmy Lennon Jr., the Elite XC, he's doing the announcing. He announces your name and stuff. Not even nervous then either. Not even you're just tunnel vision. You're like, all right, here we go,
I'm
Jimmy Lennon Jr. Like I'm in the main event. Here we
Yeah.
go.
Once they did that, I was like, oh, it's time to shine. Like, let's just have some fun. That's why, like, you couldn't see it because they zoomed in the camera on me and stuff like that. But I was like, when we did our face off, I was looking at his biceps and I was like, almost like comparing his arms to mine. Like, I was just goofing off, kind of just having a
Yeah.
good time, stuff like that. And then I went to touch gloves. He didn't. So I was like, all right, now it's on. So, but
Is
yeah,
that
I was just having a good time.
disrespect, you thought?
A little, but it's part of his image. Because I mean, everyone's got to play the game before. It's how you act in the back room, in the locker room, and that's how I kind of judge your character, your true character. And he was always cool. After the fact, he was cool to me. He's like, "Yo, dog, you gave me my first black eye," and I was like, "All right, cool, thanks."
Oh, wow.
So yeah, afterwards, he was really cool. His crew and his posse, not so much, but he was cool.
So with that fight, when he comes at you, kind of, a little bullheaded, almost a little bit down. He's I don't know, he's almost like not disrespecting you, but it's almost like he's just going to be the aggressor. He's just going to go right after you.
He was
You
trying to bully me for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So you throw the kick obviously to create some distance.
Yeah, the whole point. I mean, I always throw my push kick. I mean, if you watch two or three more of my fights, I kind of do the same thing. I'm in a southpaw stance. I raise my right knee or or push kick or something like that, and then I just sit my hip down and I throw my right hand. But it's my strong hand, but I'm in a southpaw position when I throw it.
Yep.
So I mean, it's kind of I do that punch all the time, and I remember him, like you said, he was crouched low. I don't know if you could see me or not, and he was
Yes.
kind of he was dipping to roll, and
Yep.
I dipped to roll. Literally, sounds funny, but he's known for his beard. The only thing I saw when he rolled and started to come up, I saw his beard just kind of like lift. And as I was up in one foot, I was like, "Oh, beard!" And I just knew chin was under that beard, so I just throw it at his beard. And I just clipped him on the very end of that beard or his chin, and
Yep.
just knock him off balance, and fall down. And then I was just like, I knew he got knocked down. I knew if I just stayed on him and just kept punching, the ref would eventually pull me off. So that's all I thought of is my head is as soon as he hit his knees, I was like, just punch, just don't stop punching. And then the ref just finally, pulled me off.
You cut him open pretty good, but that was a great shot. At first, when I remember watching it, and like at first you're looking at it, you're like, how did he get him? What did he get him with? But Shamrock knew. He's like, he got him with that right hand. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when they put it on slow motion, I mean, you got a perfect
Right.
shot.
It's
But
a nice little
when you're
clip.
watching it at first, you don't even notice because they're showing it from his back. So you almost don't see it. And then when they show the other camera shot, you're like, oh, damn, he got him good.
Yeah, you see, because half the people I guess didn't see that. They're like, "You didn't hit him with anything." I'm like, "All right, whatever." I'm like, if you watch it from the angle, you see where I hit him. I'm like, I clip his chin. I hit him for sure.
Yeah, a buddy of mine who's a conspiracy theory nut. Oh
Oh,
God, but he's like, oh, I don't even. I think Kimbo took a dive. I was like, I don't know if you're going to take a dive and take a shot like that. You know what
yeah.
I
Well, even still, what
mean?
would be the whole point? People say that. I'm like, what would be what's the positive that comes out of that dive? Like, why a whole Elite XC folds? He gets paid less. He looks like why? What even would be the point of that? Like, it just makes no sense.
He
So,
said he goes, oh, Kimbo probably bet on Seth or something on the fight. I'm like,
oh, okay.
it's like I was like, well, why? That doesn't make sense because he kind of, he hurt his not hurt his image, but the unbeatable guy loses.
Right. Right. And I did have, speaking of betting, I've had people after that fight come up and tell me that I helped them pay them, or I did pay their mortgage off for them. A couple people told me that, which is kind of crazy.
Wow, I wonder what. Do you remember what the odds were?
I have no idea. I still to this day I didn't know what I have no idea what the odds were. But
Well, if you're paying off a mortgage, that
yeah,
means they put down, a decent amount, and it
yeah.
was a huge odds,
I
probably.
was like, how would you cut me some of that for helping you out?
Yeah, right. Why don't they give you some of that? Yeah, that
My
would make sense.
the deal was done on a napkin. Actually, that was my contract with Elite XC. They went in the back room. I don't think I ever told anybody this. They told me the money and stuff like that, and they offered me the bonus. And then they're like, here, it's right here. They wrote it down they looked around, they found a piece of a tiny little napkin for a cocktail napkin,
Wow,
wrote down the amount, signed it at the bottom, and had me sign it at the bottom on a cocktail napkin. And that was our agreement for the fight.
wow, that
Crazy.
wow, that's crazy, and
Pretty
that's
sure
legal, and that's
people,
legal, right?
I don't know. I don't know how legal that is, but I didn't know what else to do. I was just going up and I was like, okay. I didn't have representation. I just did it. And I was like, okay. I was just hoping that they wouldn't screw me over.
Yeah, that's oh my god, that's crazy because it's
Yeah.
almost like, well, are you guys really going to pay me? Because I've signed it on a napkin.
Right. They paid me.
Yep. Did you get a bonus?
I did get a bonus. Yes. A knockout bonus. Yes.
Now, what was the controversy with like Jared Shaw and him saying, like you said, like keep it standing, or he said keep it standing? What was that
No,
about?
it was just essentially that. I mean, they didn't hint. I mean, I guess they kind of hinted. They didn't really hint. They were just like, look, we'll give you a knockout bonus. How's the knockout bonus sound? So they're just giving me an incentive to stand and trade because they're giving me they weren't giving me a submission bonus or a takedown bonus. They were giving a knockout bonus. So I mean, I just took that as they want me to stand and trade and try to knock him out.
Right.
But
And
that
like
wasn't my
you,
game plan. Through that, I said, okay, that's cool. I looked at my corner and he's like, shoot. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm gonna shoot.
why did the game plan change?
For me.
Yeah.
Oh no, the game plan the whole time for me was to shoot. In the fight, just because I'm going to react to whatever happens in the fight. And when I saw that beard raise, I'm going to throw my hands no matter what. So I was going to throw the kick to keep him away, so I can get distance to either wrap up or shoot in or something like that. But it just the opportunity presented. I saw this beard lift, and I was like, I just threw my hand and hope I could connect, and I hit. So
And those looping rights. I mean, you got him good. Obviously, he was so dazed. He actually, I don't know if you remember this, but he tries to take down the ref because
yeah, I
he,
didn't see it, and I didn't know that until way after, and because the camera didn't show it really either
nope.
during the fight. I don't think. Yeah, so somebody sent me a clip, or yeah, and there's pictures of him actually lifting him up, right? I
Yep.
believe I saw that. Yeah, which is crazy. So
So for anybody that thinks like he took a dive or whatever, now the guy was legit knocked down, and he thought the ref was you because
was
he
me.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Was that pretty just surreal? Like after it happens, because 14-second knockout against this guy who they're pumping up to be like the next Mike Tyson or the next huge star. Was that just surreal for you?
yeah, I mean, very few people, and that was one of the reasons I fought for a living is to get that feeling that you get after you fight, and that surge of emotion, especially obviously when you win. But that was, like you said, it was a surreal moment where it's vividly locked in my head and it'll never go away. That feeling of knowing that I beat him and then running around the cage and just knowing what I kind of did that night. Like it's crazy, and it set my whole rest of my life up. Just with the direction of my life, which way I was going to go, because I was contemplating retiring about halfway through my career and stuff like that, and then as soon as I did that, it re-energized me, I guess you could say, like got my mind set back on fighting, and I went another like 5 or 6 years after that with fighting when I could have been done. So yeah, it was definitely a huge impact in my life, and it directed me in a certain way for sure.
And you said he was cool afterwards. He wasn't mad or anything like that. I mean, fight game at the fight game.
Yeah, no, he was cool. Kimbo was cool. The insults and the spit that was thrown at my brother and significant other at the time was not cool, but that wasn't him. That was just the people that were around him and stuff.
I feel like they probably let too much of his crew control the back.
Yeah, that's definitely right. I had to have an escort it was 4 cops that night out in South Florida. So they escorted me the whole night. Like I had a cop bodyguards the whole night while we went out and
Wow. So his crew was more of a sore loser than he was.
Exactly. Yeah. We hugged it out in the back, and he was really cool.
Well, I mean, what is he to me? To like, what is he supposed to do? He
Yeah.
agreed to fight you. You
Yeah.
did exactly what Jared Shaw and Kimbo wanted to do. You stood up with him, and
Stood up in there exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, they can't yell at me because I did essentially what they really wanted me to do, stand and trade. So
Do you think you being like the the last minute replacement, the late like which he almost didn't have enough time to say like, oh, this guy's got a lot of power, or do you think he's like, oh, he's a 205 guy, I don't know, I'm going to be able to take his shots? Like, what, like, do you ever think about that? Like, he was probably thinking you don't
um
hit that hard, and then he's like, shit, this guy hits real hard.
yeah, no, I mean I just think that he was put on the spot too. Like he couldn't say no. Like I mean, essentially you can't say no. Like really they have control over, they can be like, okay, either fight or maybe not Kimbo, I guess. They could say, screw off, but most of the time it's like, look, last minute fight, sorry, either take it or we're not going to be happy with you in the future and we're going to give you another crappy fight in the future or not use you again. So that's one crappy thing about with the UFC. It was either, they presented you with fights and if you didn't want to take them, you felt bad saying no because you felt like it was going to tarnish your name and that they were going to hold that against you in the future, So to a point, you got to say yes no matter what. So,
Oh, Dana White would never do something like that.
yeah.
He's still doing it now with the heavyweight champion of the world.
Right.
He's still doing it.
Yeah. It's I love Dana. Like he did a lot for me, and he was actually a really nice person to me when I was fighting and stuff like that. Was always respectful and nice, and talked afterwards. And was really cool and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess a business guy myself, I can understand some of the things he does, but other things, it's come on, have some fucking. Oh, sorry, I don't know. My bad.
Oh yeah,
have
absolutely.
some, have some respect for the fighters, and they're out there doing it, making you money, like.
With Kimbo, obviously, he moves on. He actually became a pretty big star in Bellator years later. Even in UFC, of course, too, became a big star. It did definitely hurt his drawing power, but people were still interested in him. So it wasn't like the end, but it was definitely a high point for you, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, like you said, he went on the Ultimate Fighter after me. He had a big career in Bellator after me. So yeah, I just think that it made people realize that he's human and he can be beat, and that they weren't maybe as afraid to step in the ring and do stuff with him. And it made him work harder to get the image back, I guess you could say. But yeah, I think it was just a little hiccup in his career, to be honest. It really wasn't a big deal. But for me, yeah, it was definitely the high point. Well, career-wise, it was the high point, but personally-wise, it wasn't my favorite fighter or the fight that I remember the most for me personally, I guess.
What is?
It was, it's a draw between Dan Severn and Rico Rodriguez, I guess, because Dan Severn was the first big name that I fought and beat that I watched when I was a little kid, not a little kid, but younger, like, 11, 12 years old, when I was still doing, just karate and stuff. And I saw Dan Severn in the UFC doing this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. They're beasts, they're killers. And then to fight him all those years later, I had a lot of respect for him. And he made an amazing speech after the fight, like kind of passing the torch to my generation of fighters. So that was a big impact. That was huge for me. And then Rico Rodriguez too, because I saw him when I was younger too, being the UFC champ, and never thinking that one day I'd fight him. And then actually I was really, really nervous and had a lot of stress for that fight. And then to overcome all that and to beat him too was a huge milestone for me as well. So both those fights.
And that was your Bellator debut, right?
Rico was, yes. Yeah.
What did you think of like just the difference of Bellator and Elite XC, UFC? Is it all the same to you, or is it all completely different?
Um, I mean, as far as like how they treated the athletes and stuff like that, they're all pretty much the same. I guess you could say. Uh, Pay wise, I was happy with what Bellator did for me. I was really happy. I didn't think that Bellator would take care of me how they did, and they did. So that's great on Bellator. But as far as like how they treated me and the athletes and stuff like that, it's Bellator and UFC for sure are definitely comparable to each other. Yeah, it's all the
How,
same.
how did you get in Bellator at this point? Was that Bjorn Remney running it, and
You
he kind of
know,
recruits you
I think that was no. Who was before? Was it Bjorn? Man,
before Coker was Bjorn? Yeah.
no. Yeah, it was Bjorn. That's right. It was Bjorn. Yep. Yeah. And I don't remember. I don't recall exactly how I got into how I got in. I don't know if it was my because I really didn't have a manager ever. I mean, I had people that hey, I know Seth. I can get you in contact with him
Right.
type. So, but I don't I don't recall how I got in with Bellator, to be honest.
Because then you come back and you're part of the light heavyweight tournament when they were really pumping up their tournaments. Actually, they kind of really still do them today, but
Right.
back then it was a little bit different with the way they would do and run the tournaments.
Yeah, that was crappy, man.
Yeah,
I'm
Jacob Noe and King Mo, right?
Yeah, I'm so disappointed in myself for that. I felt so. I mean, I don't know if you watched. I never watched the fight afterwards, but I knew I was beating the crap out of him. And then my knee was. I've always had issues with my knees, and I knew if I like looking back, I just feel like I kind of gave up in there, which is really crappy of me to say, and it's a cowardly of me to say. But like, I know I could have fought through the pain and just stood up and kept fighting because I was winning the fight, and I just remember taking that shot and just feeling that electric sensation zap through my knee, like all the way down like my body, and I was like, it's not worth it. I kind of more thought it wasn't worth it to keep getting more injured and doing this than anything, I guess you could say. So I don't know. That was just that was a down point in my career for sure. And then the fight right after, where I just really was on the outs of my I didn't really want to fight anymore. And to have that knockout from King Mo was just an eye opener, even though it put me to sleep. It was an eye opener
Right.
that I didn't want to be doing this anymore. My health was too important to keep doing this for the money that was involved.
What did you think about King Mo just in general? Great athlete.
Oh well, yeah, I love King Mo, man. He's a cool guy, super cool, amazing athlete. Yeah, for sure. But I know he was afraid when we fought, though. He didn't.
Really?
He didn't. Oh yeah, I could tell. Like I know how confident people are when they fight stuff like that. But there was something when I fought him, like he was extremely nervous to go against me. Like he was always like he would talk big, but then he would be like to everyone else. But then to me, he'd be like kind of like I don't know. I just get that vibe when I talk to people. Like okay, I respect you, and I don't want to like go hard with you. I just want to take you down and be done with it. So I got that vibe off him a lot, which made me confident. and then lo and behold, he knocks me out anyway. So
Hmm. Maybe he saw that Kimbo fight, was a little chinny about it.
I guess I don't know, but I was just being lazy, like playing on the bottom, putting my hands behind, feeling where the cage was, and then just that split second where I felt behind me where that because I was feeling for the cage and lightning. I didn't even see it coming. I have no idea. I don't remember anything. I remember being on back and then being in the back room, and that's all I remember.
Yeah.
And kind of like a dream state when I was in the back. I thought I was dreaming, and then I came to in the back, and I was like, "Did I just fight?" Like I asked my corner, and he said, "Yeah, you just fought." I was like overcome with emotions. I started crying. I was like, "Wait, what? What?" I freaked out. Kind of had like a panic attack because I didn't realize I just fought, and they're telling me I just fought. I was like, "There's no way I just fought." So it was a scary feeling, and I didn't want to have that feeling again ever. So, and like I said, it was my health, so it wasn't worth it to me.
That's got to be pretty scary, though. Is that like a concussion? Like what was going on?
Yeah, that I went to. I mean, I've been going to doctors ever since I retired just to make sure everything's okay. I'm a hypochondriac too. That doesn't help, but but I always make sure that everything's okay. I was getting migraines for a while, which was kind of worrying me, but 10 MRIs later, I'm okay. Like I just always check just to be sure, but they slowly dissipated and went away. But yeah, that knockout was 100%. It was a concussion. Yeah, so I was just having post concussion syndrome, and that's what that was when I was having like a dream state. Like yeah, you can go in and out of like reality when it comes to that. It's spooky. It's weird.
Was your corner like worried at all? Like that you were kind of not remembering stuff?
A little bit, but they they're fighters, so they don't. How much can they be really? I mean, they kind of know what's going on. Like, yeah, he's just knocked out. Of course, he's going to be confused and stuff like that. But I'm more concerned about it than they are. So I made sure, like, when I went home, I went to the doctor and got everything checked out and stuff like that. So everything was good. Everything was fine. It was just a really bad concussion.
And you knew right then and there, I'm retired. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I had feelings beforehand, like going into the Jacob Noe fight. I was thinking about it, and then especially after the King Mo fight, I was like, yeah, this is it. And I remember people telling me, well, don't do it so fast. Maybe take some time to think about it. But in reality, I've been thinking about it for 6 to 8 months already before my last 2 fights. So I was like, yeah, the gym's doing good. Like, I'm making decent money at the gym. I can still speak somewhat clearly and remember things. So I want to call it quits now.
Did Bellator want to bring you back? Because it seems like you got, obviously name value. So did they want you to come back?
Yeah, I still technically have a fight under contract with them. So
Wow.
yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's expired now. But yeah, I still had 1 fight left, and they asked me to, but I was like, no, I'm sorry, I can't.
Do you think you ever think about getting back? Not really now, but do you ever cross your mind like, hey man, I think I could still do this one last
Yeah,
time?
I mean, I've done my fair share of grappling tournaments and stuff like that, and this sounds corny, but I started doing my traditional karate tournaments again, where I compete in like kata, and because the competition bug never goes away. You always want to do something and compete. I mean, that's kind of why I got into pro wrestling afterwards, just because I love that feeling of being in the ring and competing and doing, and showing my stuff, showing what I know, showing the beauty of the art that I do, So, so yeah, it's always in my mind. Every time I coach my students and they go in the cage for amateur fights, I'm like, damn, I wish I was in there doing it, but I just know better. I know it won't be worth it. So,
Right.
I get my fill from kind of watching them, but also from competing in like the amateur things now, like the grappling and some of the super fight things that I get paid for, and the grappling super fight matches, and also the karate competitions that I'm doing now.
With pro wrestling, you mentioned pro wrestling. How'd you get into that world? Like, how did you get in? Like, did you actually train to be a wrestler, or what did that entail?
No, I mean, maybe like throughout my whole MMA career, I did 1 or 2 wrestling matches just as like special guest that jumps in the ring and does something ridiculous. But my really good friend Josh Woods, he was wrestling for NXT, and they're located here in Orlando, it's right down the street from the Jungle, from my gym. And they told him, because they knew he did MMA with me. They told him they're looking for a coach to come and teach some kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, because they want to, make their athletes know what they're doing, in the ring, so that it looks like they know what they're doing.
Yes.
So he's like, yeah, I have a guy in mind, and he told me to call him up, give him a resume, and literally like 2 weeks later, they had me teaching like 4 or 5 hours a day at NXT, with all the talent. And so just from being there and seeing what they were doing, I was like, man, I can do all this. Like, I can do this. I can do this way better. I can do this better. So I was like, oh, I started getting into it, and then just started practicing, and then just started taking matches. But then I realized with that, I was like, okay, this isn't going to be as hard on my body like MMA. Man, was I wrong. It's literally worse. It's so much worse. Like, taking the bumps and the rattling in my head, my headaches were getting worse. I was like, this sucks. I'm like, I can't believe it's this bad. Like, no way. So I stuck it out for like, almost about a year, a little over a year. And then I was like, I can't do this. This is killing my body. I can't do this anymore. So I kept teaching, but I stopped doing it. And then they went in a different direction. I still go occasionally, once in a while, to whole pads for some of the guys. And a lot of the guys train with me at the Jungle and at the dojo. We have like big names, like Shinsuke Nakamura he's testing in a week at my dojo, at my karate dojo. He's training with me, and a bunch of other guys are at the Jungle doing the jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So a lot of them still train with us, and I still train them.
Nice. And Shinsuke's pretty legit. He actually had some real MMA fights in Japan, so
Yeah,
he's pretty legit.
Yeah. He's a super, super cool guy. He's a really cool guy.
When you were in like the performance center, like let's say, you give your resume, are you meeting with Triple H? Are you meeting with Johnny Ace? Who are you meeting with?
Yeah, I'm meeting with Triple H. I actually wrapped Triple H's hands for WrestleMania, was it 3 WrestleManias ago? I was in the back room. They showed me for a second. I was like, oh, I got my WrestleMania debut. I was
awesome. Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, it was just really cool. But yeah, that's who I met with him. One of the guy that's no longer there, I met with too. He was like running the whole facility. Just
Canyon Seaman.
no, oh man, I'm blanking out on it.
William Regal.
No, it wasn't Regal.
No.
He wasn't a wrestler. He was just an employee
Okay.
that they I met with him and stuff. So Coach Bloom.
Yep.
Bloom was there. I met with him. He was really cool. He's the one that actually said, "Yeah, you're the guy. Let's do this," type thing. So, but yeah, it was a great experience, and everybody there was like super nice and cool. I got yelled at a couple times for going in the ring and doing some crazy things that I was trying to work on, because in between the hour-long classes, there was like sometimes 15-20 minutes break. So I would just go in the ring and do some, like, I was trying to do like backflips and stuff like that. Then they're like, Seth, what are you doing? Like, you don't have clearance to be in there. Get out of there. I'm like, all right, sorry. But I was trying my stuff out too. I don't think they were happy that I was teaching them and trying to be a wrestler for other organizations at the same time, I guess. So
Yep.
yeah, they weren't very happy about that. But
Who the hell's yelling at you? Triple H? Who the hell's
no,
yelling at you?
Coach Bloom. He was on. There's
Oh, okay.
a loudspeaker that goes to the whole place. So he's in his back office seeing me on camera, and he's like, Seth, cut it out. Stop doing that. I'm like, oh, damn it. All right.
Now it's funny. Talking to Boss Rutan a while back, he was saying, because he did pro wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they got him to do some pro wrestling. Legendary MMA guy. The Japanese always do that. They get you to do some pro wrestling. They probably give you a shit ton of money. But he said, he goes, literally, he goes, I had to stop doing it. He goes, it was harder than MMA. I mean, he's one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Right.
He goes, pro wrestling was harder. He goes, it was killing my body. So it's funny you said that, because even Boss was saying that, and he was only doing it part time.
Yeah, it's true. Like, you never think, because they're like, oh, you're not really getting hit. I'm like, bull crap. I'm like, yeah, you're really pretty much getting hit. And just for me, it was like the whiplash the movements, like anything that just made my head go back. No bueno. So that was the big thing, and it was just not so much my joints, my body. I can take that stuff. It's just the brain stuff and the head stuff. I don't like that stuff so much anymore. So that's what was hard on me.
And they always say gravity is real. Like the falling really does happen.
Yeah, it really happened.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you think, like, okay, at first, did you think like, okay, I'm going to be here for a while, or like, what was the thought process of actually working there? Did you think it's like a part-time gig? You're going to be there for a while? Like, what was, or maybe somewhere in between?
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping it was going to be a full-time thing. I mean, they pay me really good, and it was a full-time thing. I mean, hourly wise, I guess you could say part-time, but yeah, they bought all sorts of equipment. They spared no expense with all the heavy bags and the pads and everything they need. They're like, what do you need? I'm like, well, I could use this. And they got everything. So they were really, really wanting to push it and do it. And what ended up happening in the end is I would teach this stuff to them like really good, but the talent was like half of them were really into it, really wanting to learn it. The other half were like, why are we doing this? Why the hell are we doing this? This isn't our thing. Like, why are we doing this? So it wasn't up to me what they did in the ring, if they used my stuff or not. So if they didn't see them using, I think they just saw not a lot of them using what I was teaching them. So they're like, is this even worth it type thing, I guess you could say. So I was like, that's not my fault. I'm like, I'm not the one that's telling them what to do in there. Like, if I had that power, I would tell them, I'm like, do this, try a slip, try a hook here or something, something. But that's not me. So
It makes it look more legit, more real, doing some of that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the whole point of them doing that with me. And then they wanted the talent to show it in the ring, and they just weren't doing it. So ultimately they said they don't think it's worth keeping this program, the kickboxing and jiu-jitsu program, around, I guess.
What did they call you though? Striking coach, or what was like the
striking coach? Yeah, it was just a striking coach. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that just, to me, it's like, wow, that's, you wouldn't think of it, but then you're like, yeah, that actually is a great idea if they could execute it properly.
If they could execute it, exactly. And some of them were like, hey, just so you know, in my match, I did this and this and this. I'm like, oh, you did? Like, yeah, I did a one and then a leg kick and then a high kick. And I was like, oh, that's badass. That's really cool. But the other ones, I guess, just had their own shtick, had their own way of wrestling, and they just didn't do it.
Who was some of the students like that you can remember? I know you said Nakamura and stuff, but who else was some of your students?
Man, Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, man, all the guys. Well, some of them that aren't there anymore. Like Simon Gotch was one that was huge. That really, like, he actually joined the gym afterwards and started training with me and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
he's legit, right?
Yeah,
He's got a skill set for that.
yeah. Corbin. Um, oh man, now I'm blanking on what's his name. This the guys. I'm sorry, I don't follow anymore. So the soft guys, Jersey guys. Oh man.
Oh, Big Cass and Enzo
Yes.
Amore.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 They were there. I'm trying to think. I said Becky Lynch. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, all the guys that you see there now. I guess you could say.
How was Becky though? Like, did she take to it? She liked it?
Becky loved it. She actually did jujitsu as well at my gym after for a while too. Before she moved, yeah, she trained her butt off in jujitsu and kickboxing. Yeah, she was really good.
Wow, look at her now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wow, that's pretty cool. So, like, obviously, the people that are into it, are they letting it known like that it's working, or it's just not one of those systems where you tell Triple H or whatever this is great. Like, do
Yeah,
they do that?
I didn't really have that kind of access every day to Triple H. For I was like, hey, just so you know, they're doing this. But in the end, I did. I was like, look, I'm teaching this. I'm telling them this, and I told them who's responding and who's not responding. I said some of them even come to me and say they don't want to do this, and I tell them that. I'm like, look, these guys tell me they don't want to do it. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. You want me to force them? I will, but I need
Yeah.
tell me what you want me to tell them to do. So
Do you pay attention to current like wrestling and stuff? Like, do you know Triple H is kind of not really in the performance center anymore? He's not really doing NXT. Have you following that?
no, I haven't been following any of that. No, I've
Uh,
been so in my own world when it comes to the dojo and stuff like that. Not even MMA. Like when it came to Felicia's last fight, that was about the last MMA thing that I've been around and even looked at. To be honest,
what fight was it?
I didn't even go to her last fight.
Oh,
It was 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Where she retired. I don't even remember the name of her opponent. She beat her ass pretty bad though. I know that. But that was the whole point because I was training at the dojo, so I didn't get to train with her at all for her fight. So obviously I wasn't going to go out there and corner her when I wasn't
right.
part of her camp or anything like that, which I felt bad for. But yes, she kind of had the same feeling I did with retirement, with she wasn't feeling it was worth anymore with the damage and stuff. She said she's been in a few wars, and which she definitely has. So she wanted to make sure her health was number one priority.
Is that a problem with some MMA fighters? They don't know when to retire?
Yeah, I sadly I see that a lot. I mean, I don't know how they are like when they're not fighting and in their personal lives and stuff like that, and how they get about, but I don't know how they can take so much punishment and be like normal and okay. I mean, I mean, apparently some of it's definitely genetic and who knows, some people might not get hit in the right spots as hard, but I just don't know how some of the fighters can keep going with these long ass careers and so many fights and be okay. I mean, unless we're going to see some of the damages later on, I don't know, but um, and just me too. I'm a warrior, so I'd rather just be safe than sorry and not have to worry about it. But even though I'm definitely worried about later consequences of what I did to my body for 15 years, So, um, just don't
And
know.
you did some kickboxing too, right? Some K1?
Some K1, yeah. Well, luckily for the K1, I didn't really get hit that hard. It was just me gassing out the whole time. I don't know what that was about. It was me traveling, I guess, to Japan those couple of times where the Bob Sapp one was good because it was fast and easy and it wasn't that bad. And I got a pinched nerve in my arm, which is ridiculous. But I didn't really get hit by him at all. But the last two after that, I just felt like I just totally gassed. And my cardio was on point. It's amazing, but it's just 1 minute in, I felt like I did like 10 miles. I was so winded. It's crazy. I don't know what that was about. And I've never had that feeling before.
That jet lag. They were saying sometimes going to Japan for some reason, you got to be there for a week and then you get acclimated, but I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know. It didn't happen for me. That's for sure. It was bad, really bad.
How did they get you into K1 though? Just they just recruited you in. They saw you
Another
in
no,
UFC.
another last minute thing, man. Like I was laying in bed. It was 10 o'clock at night. I got a call from Chris Cordero. He was actually, I guess you could say he was my manager for a couple of fights beginning early on in my career. And he's like, hey, he's like, I got this huge opportunity. You want to fight Bob Sapp? I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, they had a last minute dropout in Japan. Somebody was supposed to fight Bob Sapp and they can't. So they asked me because they knew that he's friends with a lot of the Japanese people or something like that.
Yep.
Through K1, so he called me. He's like, "Do you want to do it? This is what they're offering you." I'm like, "Can I negotiate?" And they're like, "Nope." He's like, "It's either yes or no." I'm like, "Yes," and that was that. They were happy that I stepped up last minute, and they offered me a couple more fights after that because of that.
Wow, another last minute job for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, but this is
Well,
first, but
last
yeah.
like it was like a week's notice or something like that. But still, to go to Japan on a week's notice was kind of last minute.
Yeah. And this is Bob Sapp in his prime pretty much. I mean, years later, I even interviewed
Yeah.
him and he basically said he took dives for years
Yeah.
just for the money. It's like,
Just for money.
man.
But this is when he was like not losing at all. Yeah.
And beating Ernesto Hoost twice in a row. He killed him. Like the
Yeah.
best kickboxer ever, and he's destroying him.
I know. That's crazy.
Man, I don't know. It's funny. I guess maybe he got too big, too popular, was doing all those game shows and video games and TV commercials and all that stuff in Japan. I guess that got to his head where he's like, oh, I don't want to get injured.
Right. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, and you can't blame a guy for that, but you can blame him for going out there. Even if that's the case, then just retire and be done. Don't go out there and disgrace the sport and take dives. That's awful.
Yeah, he definitely took a bunch of dives. And it's
Yeah.
funny, Sam Greco, obviously legendary kickboxer, like stop training him. He's like, I'm not training. If you're not going to take it seriously, I'm not training you.
What's the point? Yeah. Ridiculous.
But were you scared of him at all? I mean, were you nervous of him? Just the look of him, I would be like, oh
No,
my God, damn,
again,
I'm going to get killed.
again, I don't know if it's just me liking the feeling of going against somebody bigger and like supposed to be a big badass that's heavier than me. Like that doesn't get me nervous. It just makes me feel like pumped and wanting to go. Like, because I would for him too. I was nervous, but not like I was for all of my other fights. Yeah, no, I was pretty confident going out there. I was like, yeah, he's good, but he's slow, and I could outmaneuver him. And
Yeah.
even though the ring was smaller than I thought, but still wasn't that bad. I was still doing a great job circling and moving around. And if it was MMA, he would have been done because I would have knocked him down on that first punch and then jumped on top of him.
Right, right. So as far as like UFC, just kind of going back to that, how did you get into UFC originally? Was it through the Ultimate Fighter?
Yep, season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter. So they saw my Dan Severn fight, which was for
Yep.
King Cage.
Yep.
And then, I submitted all my stuff and called me up, did all the crazy interviews they made you go through for all that. And eventually, got on the season.
Were you on Rich Franklin's team?
Rich Franklin, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Use.
Do the coaches have any real say in the show as far as like who they want on the team, or is somebody else really picking?
No, they do. When we did, it was the sporadic picking where it was back and forth choosing at time, but no, they had the full choice. It wasn't some behind the scene puppet telling them what to do. It was them.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Who was the opposite coach that season? Was it Shamrock?
No, Matt Hughes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I feel horrible what happened to Matt. It's awful.
Yeah, how is he doing now? Because I saw recently he did an autograph signing. So is he better now? Is he doing okay?
Better, but not. It's definitely like me and him hung out tons after the show, and for years and years and years, I had him come to my gym and do seminars, and we were like really close. Like not really close, but we were close, like buddies. Where I could call him and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this type thing." And I went up to him. This was maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. In Bellator, he was sitting on the side, and I was like, "Hey, Matt, what's?" And this is the first time I've seen him since the accident. And he looked at me with his blank stare, and he goes, "Who are you again?" I was like, "Ah, shit."
Oh wow.
Hey, it's Seth. It's Seth, and apparently he's gotten better since that, I guess, but not all the way. So I can't really say. I haven't seen him in 3 years, so I don't know how it is now. But that was my last experience with him, and it was heartbreaking, to be honest. It was sad.
Yeah, so you like stuff like that. I mean, you obviously even accidents can happen to fighters, but it's just crazy to see a guy that was that good, that on top of his game, had all those wins, all those fights, all those titles,
Right.
and look at him now. It's like,
And look at him now.
very sad. Yep. So on that show, was it a good experience though? Because you're getting notoriety. That show is really popular. Like you're getting a little bit of FaceTime. Did
Yeah.
you like being on the Ultimate Fighter?
Being on it I would never do it again. Well, maybe I will now, but for 8 years after, I said I'd never do it again. But it was such a great experience, man. Like our season it wasn't as popular, I guess, because we were all friends. We all know there was no drama in the house. We all hung out. We all freaking pulled pranks on each other left and right. It was pranks the whole time. It was so much fun. And I still talk to some of the guys still today. Not as much as I used to, but we still keep in contact and stuff. But no, it was an amazing experience. It was so much fun. I didn't like the way they edited it and did stuff. There was so much on the show that we did that they didn't show. It's kind of crappy. I mean, I get a lot of it was probably a little too raunchy to be shown, but it was still funny stuff and good stuff that we did. But yeah, I wasn't too happy of how they edited the show.
Sometimes on that show too, like the editing was so obvious, like it wasn't clean cuts. You know what I mean? So you knew something else happened there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's crappy.
As far as kind of getting fights and getting on the show and stuff, was it more important to win, not lose, or be fight of the night and get the attention of the guys and saying like, oh, who cares if he wins or loses? This guy's going to put on a great fight.
Yeah, Dana really, really cared about putting on the show for sure. Like I remember him mumbling after I won my fight. He's like, I won. The first 2 rounds were freaking awesome. I did a jump spinning back kick, knocked him down. Like I did really cool stuff. And then the 3rd round, I knew I had 2 rounds in the bag. 3rd round, I dominated, but I just took it easy a little bit just because I was tired. I didn't want to risk anything happening. I remember him leaning to the side and saying to somebody, yeah, it was good, but the 3rd round was shit. I was like, damn. I'm like, I just won. Like, I mean, be happy. At least I won, but he wasn't happy that it wasn't exciting, So it's like, it's better to be excited. It's better to win and be exciting. You can't just pull off a boring grinder. He wants you to be exciting for sure. So it was definitely important to be exciting.
Did you get any like FaceTime with him, like one-on-one time with him, or not really?
During the show?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. During the show. Yeah. Not a lot, but he was always in and out of that. Like he'd come in, say something to us, then leave. And we had time to like go ask him questions if we had any questions or anything like that. But I didn't have much to say to him at the time. So it was not much that we spoke with him.
I noticed that, even now still, if somebody wins and it's a boring fight, he'll definitely you could tell his displeasure with what happened. Like that fight sucked. Like,
yeah. But it's like, damn, man, like we want to keep our careers too, because, we lose 2 fights, you're probably going to cut us 2 or 3 fights. We're gone. So it's like, we got to play it safe too. We're thinking about our careers too. So it's like, you can't have everything.
Like even GSP will get, what his decision win for a while, but he kept decisioning guys and winning. And, Dana would get all like pissy about it. Oh, he doesn't want to fight these killers. And he'll throw like lines out there about guys. It's just like, but he won and convincingly. So
exactly. But yeah, you got to have a good balance, I guess, to be exciting and win a fight. So you got to have everything. Which I get. You want it to be exciting for the audience to watch, but you got to also understand that we're trying to save our jobs too. And you can't risk losing by just trying to do something crazy and really cool looking, because you'll cut us.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's funny. It's one of the things. Was like, oh, but it was a great fight. Yeah, but you lost again. You lost 2 in a row. You know what I mean, or something.
Yeah.
So with the fight of the night, like, is that a big bonus, or I don't know, how was it then to how it is now? I think now it's like 50 grand or something, but the fight of the night bonus.
It wasn't that much, but we got a bonus for sure. I think it was anywhere from 10 to 20. But yeah, it wasn't 50, but still it's a decent amount. I was happy for sure with the bonuses.
Is he pulling a Jared Shaw from Elite XC and saying, "Hey, how about a knockout bonus? You keep it on the feet." Did saying stuff like that or no?
No, that's never happened. No, because there was always a mix of there was always a submission bonus, knockout bonus, fight. So there's different ways to get your bonuses, not just by doing one thing, which I feel like we'd be trying to lean you into doing that one thing.
What was the overall experience in UFC? I know Matt Hamill was a good fight. Obviously, he was pretty damn good. Like, what was the overall consensus on your time there?
I mean, happy that I fought for him, but disappointed in how I did. I was literally undefeated my entire career, like 7 or 8 fights leading before that up to UFC. And then I just felt like once I got to the UFC, I don't know if it nerves that took over or what it was, but I just felt like I just couldn't put on my best performance ever for any fights that I had. So it was just a little bit of regret. I always live my life, and I always say that I live my life with no regrets. But if I had one, it's just to not give a little bit more for every one of my fights from the UFC, because I knew I was better than the fights, because I was always winning or doing really good, and then I would just putter out and lose, or not give up, but kind of give up, I guess you could say, which And I came to realize that like years later, like when I really looked back on it and I really like focused on my life and what I've done, and I kind of always thought to myself, why did I quit there? Why did I stop there? Like what really was the issue? And it was just, I don't know. I can't even answer that anymore. Like, or I never have been able to answer that of why I did. I just felt like I got to the UFC and that was my goal. And I should have had a bigger goal is to, to win instead of just getting there, you know?
Lacking that killer instinct, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. You can really say that, which is weird because in other fights I had that and I always think that I have that, but sometimes I'm just, and that's what made me think too that later on down the road, like I just don't have that killer instinct anymore like I used to either. So maybe it's time to retire and be done with it because I'm too nice of a person to want to like have that killer instinct, I guess you could say. But I don't know. It's still something that I struggle with to this day, to be honest. Like it's something that I was thinking about and I look back on and I have this weird feeling in my stomach about it that I kind of just gave up on some of my fights instead of pushing through and doing what I could have done. So yeah.
You regret like all that kind of stuff, like looking back, or are you getting better with it, thinking
No,
oh no, you're not getting better. Okay.
no, I regret it for sure. Yeah. It's like, well, what, where could I be now? I mean, I'm extremely happy where I'm at now. I'm doing amazing financially. The gyms are doing great, but I just always look back and be like, well, what if I would have not tapped here because it was kind of hurting my arm or my knee was kind of hurting or this and that. You know, it's just like, what could I have been? What could I have done? Where my life would be if I didn't do that, you know?
I feel like a lot of fighters do that. Sometimes they'll get they'll tap out from a real naked, and next time they'll let the guy choke him out. Like I feel like that always happens. It's like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
maybe it's just a thing in the fighter where they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna let that happen to me again." Then they just pass out. It's like probably should have just tapped again.
Probably,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah, true. But I don't know. Some of the things I just felt like the knee thing with Noe in Bellator, like he wasn't hitting me with anything. I just shot and I just felt an electric sensation in my knee. And could I have probably got up and fought? Yeah, but I just was scared and I was like, I don't want to hurt my knee anymore. So I gave up. And so that like it's things like that it's like, you know, it could
Hey,
have been.
maybe your brain is saving you. You know what I mean? Like saying,
Yeah,
hey, don't get injured here. It's gonna be worse.
yeah. But I should have, I should have said, "Shut up, brain." Just keep fighting through it. You wuss.
So as we head towards the wind down, head towards the finish here, do you better like light heavyweight or heavyweight? What do you prefer as far as weight class?
My entire first half of my career was heavyweight, and I was about 240 pounds, 245 pounds. Then I started doing a little more cardio, eating a little bit better, and I walked around at like 220, 215 to 225. I walked around at, and then I cut to 205. Um, I don't know. I mean, I love fighting big guys, so I love fighting heavyweight because that was always my thing. Because like I said, I always felt faster, but I enjoyed my weight, my health better at light heavyweight, and I was still fighting bigger guys a lot of times at light heavyweight because I would fight big heavyweight fights as a light heavyweight. So I guess you could say heavyweight.
It's funny. There's like a thing with smaller heavyweights. Not all of them, but like Fedor is not a huge heavyweight, probably the greatest.
Right.
Daniel Cormier was way better at heavyweight than he was at light heavyweight, even though he was great at light heavyweight. And he's a smaller dude, so it's something with the quickness. It helps.
Right. Yeah, it definitely helps for sure.
What's your favorite discipline? I know you do BJJ, kickboxing, karate, wrestling. What's your favorite discipline?
Favorite? I mean, I guess you could say karate because it was my original, my true love. Like when I first, that's what got me into martial arts in the first place. When I walked into that dojo, and I never stopped since I was 6 years old. And I never stopped doing it. And even when I was fighting, MMA professionally, I always still practiced my kata, and I always did my traditional stuff in the background, and and did that. So I just really enjoy the mentality and the discipline that it gives. I'm not a spiritual person, but I guess you could call that a spirituality of it. I guess you could say like the aura of it and the feeling I get when I do it. It's just a lovely art. I love it for everything that it's given me and done for me. So I guess you could say karate, but if not, BJJ is definitely a close second as far as like, um, you know, the reality base, for fighting, I guess you could say BJJ for sure. But then again, I love wrestling. I loved wrestling in high school, and when I wrestled in college, that was great too because of all the athleticism and the discipline that it taught you too. So they're all great in their own way. But if I had to choose, it would be karate, I guess.
Now you said Severn, Rico kind of tied for your favorite. Shockingly, Kimbo, not the favorite. It's my favorite, but not yours.
No,
It,
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love what it did for me. It would be a third, third, I guess you could
right.
say.
Is there a fight that got away, like a dream fight that just didn't happen? You're like, oh man, I almost thought this guy should have happened.
I had 3 fights scheduled with Ken Shamrock when Ken Shamrock was Ken Shamrock, and they
Wow.
all fell through. We had posters made, fell through. One fight, I think he got hurt or something happened, and the other one, the whole organization just didn't went through or something like that. So it's like 3 misses to fight Ken Shamrock, and we actually filmed like a couple commercials together. Like this was about 6 years ago or something like that, and we've been acquaintances and friends since the Kimbo thing happened. We were always like in contact, I guess you could say. And then we were scheduled to fight, and I was like, I'll fight you. Let's do it. Yeah, of course. Um, but yeah, definitely Ken Shamrock. I wish that fight, one of those 3 fights that I was supposed to fight him, would have happened for sure.
Oh wow. Didn't even know that. That's amazing.
But yeah,
Damn.
Island Fights, I think it was called one. There's a few different organizations that tried to put it together, and for one reason or another, it just didn't happen.
Now, before we let you go, give us all the plugs, social media, everything you got, and all 3 gyms.
Sure. So the MMA gyms will just be jungleorlando.com, or you can just go Instagram is just Jungle Orlando. And then you got my karate school, which is karateoforlando.com, or Instagram Karate of Orlando. And then me personally, it's at Silverback Seth on Instagram, or Twitter's at Silverback Seth, but I'm mostly on Instagram, I guess you could say, for that, at Silverback Seth.
Nice. Awesome stuff, Seth. Thank you so much for all the time. And man, I still remember that Kimbo fight like it was yesterday. That was unbelievable. But awesome stuff, Seth. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man. I had a good time.